Hi, I'm Andy. Welcome back to C# Puzzles. Let's take a look at the while loop. So the while loop is just a block of code that will continually repeat until a condition's met. So you set the condition at the top of it, and then it's just brackets and then the code you want to run. So you could maybe have like a print statement there saying, "Are you stupid?" And then you get the user's input with the read line, and then you have an if statement. And if they answer yes, you say, "I knew you were stupid," and then you exit the loop. But if you don't answer yes, it just continually asks you, "Are you stupid? Are you stupid? Are you stupid?" It would just continually do it until that condition's met. You could even set it up to run forever, and break your computer. It would repeat itself more times than my 5-year-old nephew, which really is something. So let's go take a look at it. If we go to the GitHub repo, the link's in the description of the video, you can click the code drop-down menu and copy the HTTPS URL. Let's use GitHub Desktop and go to File, Clone Repository. In the URL tab, paste it in there, check your local paths, okay. Click clone. Oh, I've still out through the firewall, retry it. There you go, it's looking good now. If I have a look at my repo folder, there's the code. If I've opened it up, okay, so I've opened it up. Let's take a look at program.cs. I don't need to do the update, just leave that be. So at the very bottom of the file, you see I'm running example A, example B, example C, and I've commented out the puzzles. Just for this demonstration, I'm just going to run example A, so I'll run them one at a time for you. So example A, we have a counter and we have a while loop. Now the counter starts at 0. Remember, a lot of stuff with computers starts at 0, not 1. So it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, not 1, 2, 3. So 0, 1, 2, 3 is actually 4 counts if you think about it. So while loop true, this just means the while loop will always run. All the code in here will always run until we hit this break statement, which will end the loop. This is about as simple as a while loop can be. It's always going to run except for when you hit break. So we're getting the user's input here, asking them to enter the word apple. And then if it's not the correct input, so we're taking user's input, we're converting it to lowercase. If it's correct, we're going to exit the loop. If not, we're just going to increment the counter, and then the loop's going to run again. It's going to keep running until we hit this break statement. So we're continually asking the user to enter the word apple. And if they don't enter apple, we just keep on asking them. Now this counter variable here, I've got counter plus plus, but an older way of doing this is counter equals counter plus 1. That's the same thing. This is just shorthand and it's much easier. You could also do, if you wanted to reduce the count every time, you could do counter minus minus. Sorry, minus minus. We want to increase it, so it's counter plus plus. And then once the while loop's done its thing, it's ran, we're going to display the final count in this sentence. Okay, it's very simple. Puzzle A, knock knock, so we're going to write a knock knock joke. Knock knock, who's there? Phil. Phil who? Phil these nuts. Feel these nuts, guys. Classic, we're all 5 years old, we're all in elementary school here with a sense of humour. So we want to do a knock knock joke, but we want the user to be continually prompted until they enter who's there or who is there, as well as Phil who. So it's going to be, you guessed it, a while loop, but there's maybe going to be an if statement in there. If the users enter the wrong reply 2 times, tell them to write who is there or Phil who. So if they enter it wrong 2 times in a row, and the third attempt, want to tell them what to enter. So keep this in mind, that we're starting at 0, we're not starting at 1. have a go at that puzzle. Should be fairly straightforward. Let's demonstrate it. Let's demonstrate the example. That's building it. There we go. Enter the word apple. If I entered the sack of poo, that's not an apple. Enter the word apple. If I entered poo juggler, that's not apple. If I enter apple, it says thank you for entering apple. After 2 tries, it counted. So that's 0, try 0, try 1, try 2. I'll just allow my stuff through my firewall there. Okay, we'll go down the bottom. I'll comment out example A. We don't need to see that anymore. I'll run example B for you. So example B. Get rid of that. So instead of using the word counter, it's common to just use a single letter I. It could be any letter. I mean, it's just a variable name, right? It's just programmers are fairly lazy, and that saves you typing out the word counter every time. It's very common to use I as a count variable. We also are going to keep a running total here using this total integer. So basically we're going to take 3 numbers, add them together. We're going to use I in the count loop to cycle through the while loop. 3 times, so it'll be, we're starting at 1 this time, not 0, which is a little bit confusing. So we're starting at 1, so it's going to go 1 through the while loop, 2 through the while loop, 3 through the while loop, and then this is going to then not be true because 4 is not less than 4 and the while loop will end. So we're using logic here instead of just setting it to true to run all the time. We're using logic here to set it to false, stop it running when we get to loop 4. So we're asking the user to enter a number, we're getting the input, converting it to integer, we're used to all this. But what we're doing is we're keeping a running total, so we're taking the existing total, so the first time through the loop it'll be 0, plus whatever the user enters. So if the user enters 1, the total will be 1. We're incrementing the counter, we're asking the user again, and if the user enters 2, well, the total is already 1, it's saved outside the while loop, so it's 1, and then we're taking the total plus if the user enters 2, then that's 3, so the total's 3 and it keeps on going. And then we're displaying it at the very end. Let's demonstrate it. Enter a number, our favourite number, everyone's 69. Enter a number and you see how we're on the second attempt now, so it's went 2. Enter a second number, 1. Enter a number, we're in loop 3 now, we'll try 2. The total was 72. And if I do that again, you can show you can use enter a number. Favourite number, everyone, 69. If we enter -1, if we enter another number, I don't know, 0, what happens? Total was 68, so 69 minus 1, 0, 68, it works. Puzzle B. We're using maths again, so you kind of notice I'm getting you to do a lot of maths because we involve a bit of counting and everything. So we want the user to enter a number, and then as long as the number's between 1 and 10, we'll accept it. So if it's less than 1 or greater than 10, we want to continually prompt them to enter a number between 1 and 10. Very similar to what we've been doing. But then when they enter the number, we want to calculate that number to the power of 2, to the power of 3, to the power of 4, and to the power of 5. So the user enters number 2, 2 to the power of 2 is 4, 2 to the power of 3 is 8, and so on. So I want you to think how you would do this in an if statement. Select something less than 1 and something greater than 10, and then just do it in the while loop. It's the same expression, just like we've seen. This is almost, you will have seen expressions like this inside if loops before in these puzzles. Just the same thing but in a while loop. Now to calculate the power of, just use math.pow. Okay, use that function, look it up. It accepts doubles, not integers, I'll warn you. So you want to not be using integers, you want to be using doubles, okay? Just learn how to use that. You could obviously do this mathematically yourself, just by typing in, you know, the star several times, but I'm going to show you how to do it using that function because it's just easier, it's more readable. Have a go at that puzzle, guys. Let's have a look at example C. Okay, Boolean values. We're kind of touching on Boolean values now, so we're just going to start throwing them in there. Boolean values start with bool, and they are either true or false. Okay, true or false. They cannot be anything else. They can't be null. Okay, can't be null. They can't be zero. But yeah, you can convert a 0 and a 1 into a bool, obviously, because it's either 0's false or 1's true. But I'll leave that for later. So put it back to true. So we've got a bool as active true. This is exactly the same as just saying while true. But obviously in the code, you can change it to false. But be aware that within the code, if you change it to false, it is not a break statement. It does not end the loop immediately. It does not do that. What it does is it just changes this flag to false, and then everything else after it will execute, unlike the break statement. But when you get back to the top, this now reads false, and the loop will not run again. Okay, so this is basically turn the loop off, next loop, when used like this. Now we're also just resetting the counter as well. For a small program like this, it's pointless to reset the counter, but I want you to get in the habit of doing this because it's a very common beginner mistake to increment counters and other variables and then not reset them to 0, and then something else runs that program later on and it starts off not at 0 but at the end of the previous count, and then your logic's all screwed up. So just always, if it's supposed to reset to 0, just write in reset to 0. Just make sure it's physically reset to 0. So like I've said, because this is not going to be a break statement, it's not going to end a loop, you actually are going to see this console write line. Okay, I'm just hammering the point home. So puzzle C, in fact, let's run that. Let's run that, I'll demonstrate. Loop 0, loop 1, loop 2, loop 3, loop 4, loop 5, ending loop. This line still runs as there's no break statement. So it's basically just counted 0 to 5. Okay? Counting 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines. This will catch you a lot, the fact that it starts at 0. Anyway. Puzzle C, contagious laughter. We're going to make a crazy program that maniacally laughs at you. So the program is going to start off saying ha 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 ha, and it's going to prompt us to also go ha ha ha, and then as long as our input contains ha, it's going to keep laughing again. So it's going to go ha 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 ha, we're going to go ha ha, it's going to go ha 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 ha, and we're going to go ha ha, and infinitely loop. We're just going to go a bit mental. However, after laughing 3 times, I want it to kind of go ha ha, just to see if we're all still laughing. And then if we enter ha after that, it loops back, ha 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 again. If it doesn't, then end the loop. So, very, very simple one to kind of do there. Just think through it. It's obviously going to be something like this. It's not going to be a million miles away from this. Use a keep laughing Boolean value to activate and deactivate the loop. Okay? So there's going to be a loop, there's going to be an if statement, and there's going to be a keep laughing one. Keep laughing Boolean variable. Have a go. Good luck. The solutions are available in the solution branch in the repository. If we click this, we can navigate to program.cs and all the answers are there. Okay, now let me take you through how I would do this program. So at the very bottom, I'm just going to comment out the examples. I don't need them anymore. And then I'm just going to run puzzle A for you. So right at the start, we've got the example, the while true loop. While loop's always going to run because it's set to true. We've got a counter and we've got user input and stuff. Puzzle A, write a knock knock joke. Fill these nuts. It's still funny, guys. It's still funny. It always will be. So we have to prompt the user to continually... Okay, I have to go through this. Alright, I think I know what I'm doing. Start off with a counter. The while loop, set it to true so it always runs. Our intention is to stop it by using a break statement. So we're just going to have the same sort of thing here. This grab the user input, which is a fairly common thing to use a while loop for, is to just continually prompt the user for the correct input. While loop with an if statement inside it. So we've got knock knock. I'm getting the input. Next is an if statement, right? We have to check if they're saying who's there or who is there. So that's if. And we want to get the input and convert it to lowercase. And we could do who's there, or just copy this again. Who is there? And it's going to just match these strings exactly, so make sure you've got like the question mark and everything in there. Okay. And then we just end the while loop, right? By using the break statement. So if it matches, if the user enters what we want them to enter, we're out. However, if they don't, oh, sorry, I went all Python-y for you there. If they don't, and it kind of knows what we're going to do here, we're going to increment the counter. And then we usually display something, right? But we're just going to prompt them again, so we don't need to do anything. However, on the second attempt, we have to tell them what to write. So if counter's greater than 1, console write line, yep, there we go. Maybe just type, and I'm just going to use single quotes. Who is there? If I could type, that would be useful. You could also, instead of using single quotes inside double quotes that we've done before, you could just comment out the backslash. Either I'm just using single quotes because I want to. So this will only be running the second attempt. Everything else is just going to increment the counter. See how complicated this is getting. Like for beginners, we're doing pretty good. Look, if else statements inside the while loops, incrementing counters, it's quite a bit. Okay, so that's kind of like this part of the joke. Have this other part of the joke. We could just, easiest thing to do is just to kind of copy and paste this again, because it's basically the same thing, right? We could just reset counter to 0 and then use it. I don't like that because I kind of want this to be one block and this to be a completely separate block. I don't want relay to reuse counters. What I'll do is I'll maybe just call it who counter, because this is the who part of the joke, right? Who counter, and then just replace everything else in here. Oh, sorry, I did build, I did Control B there, I didn't mean to do that. Get rid of this. blah. Okay, so we can basically refactor this now to say what did we want it to say? Fill. Fill, and then what was the input? Fill who? So just one entry in the if statement. Remember the question mark? And then we'll just fill who, tell the user what to type in. So it's basically the same as the top one. Now we can obviously reuse the input variable because they're each contained within the while loop brackets. This is the scope of the problem of the while loop. That's the scope. Everything. If you instantiate a variable in between brackets, it only exists in between those brackets. That's the simple version. So we could have created maybe an input here and then just, not instantiated it, but just reset it in there. I'm just happy using that. People might disagree with my use of memory and stuff. You maybe want to only instantiate something once, blah, 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 blah. I think this is good enough for beginner level. And then we have to have the punchline at the very end. It's made us all laugh so much. Actually, I do find it funny. I'm sorry to tell you that. So not in the while loop, we want it outside the while loop. Console.writeLine. Paste it in there. Let's give that a shot. Knock knock, if I type in apple, nothing, banana, nothing. Okay, if I type in who's there, question mark. Okay, we're on the next part of the joke. Fill me up. No. Just type fill who. Fill these nuts. Okay, so if I just try and do another test case, if I enter it immediately, who is there? Fill who without the question mark. Didn't work. Okay, so there we go. I think that's a good enough answer. There's other things you could have done and used two while loops one after the other, but I just want you to learn while loops, let's not kill ourselves. There's better ways to do this, but I would be like using functions and stuff rather than while loops. Okay. Comment out puzzle A, we're done with that. Let's have a look at puzzle B. Okay, example B, we're using I as the counter, we're keeping a running total. We're using like an if statement in there to kind of logic whether it's true or false. Okay, looks straightforward. Write a program that asks for the user for a number between 1 and 10. Take that number, find the power of 2, 3, 4, and 5 for it. Okay. To continually prompt the user to enter a number between 1 and 10. Yeah, okay. And use math.pow to do the power calculation. Remember, it accepts doubles, not integers. I just thought I'd save you a lot of hassle there, guys, by telling you that. We're trying to have fun here. We're not trying to, hurt anyone. I'm not trying to hurt yourself either. Okay, so let's just get the user's input right. Enter a number between 1 and 10. I maybe should have had all that written out there for you, but whatever. The input is going to be a double, as we've discussed. console.read line, but we have to cast it to a double, so convert to double would do it. So we're getting the user's input and we're converting it to a double. I think if you got that, you're off to a good start. Okay, the while loop. Going to do like we would have done in an if statement. If input is less than 0, or if input is greater than 10, then, well, actually, is it going to be 0? It's going to be 1, isn't it, guys? Or is it going to be 0? It's going to be 1. Because that's be between 1 and 10. If it was 0, it would accept 0. So we can just copy this again, because we have to get the user's input, because this is going to trigger if they've not entered a number between 1 and 10. So we're just going to copy this again and maybe give a slightly different message. Sorry, it has to be between 1 and 10. So this is only going to trigger if they don't enter a number between 1 and 10. And if they don't, it's just going to continually run until this statement is false. Okay, because we're reusing input. Input exists before the while loop, and it's just going to continually check it, and it's going to continually set input within the while loop. So if the user enters -1, this statement will be false. -1 is less than 1, and -1 is not. So it's going to match this side of it. This side is going to be true. So this is going to run. So if either one of these are true, this will run. If you entered 11, this would be true. And then whatever the user enters here, so enters 12 in the next round, well, go back round, inputs, greater, blah, blah, blah. So as soon as both of these are false, it stops running. Okay, now we have to do the power calculations. We've got the input. So you could just do this line by line. You could do, like, calculate an answer. That has to be a double, doesn't it? Because math.pow uses doubles. So we do math.pow, and we could put in 2 and then input, you know, and then do a console write line. Input to the power of 2 is -1. If I use string interpolation by the $sign, that should work. So we could do this, and then you could copy that, and you could do it again, and you could call this answer 2, and you could call this answer 2, and change that to 3, change that to 3, and on we go. But very repetitive. It would be nicer if we could just use a while loop to do this dynamically. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll get rid of that, and we'll get a while loop, and I'll set that up. So while, oh yeah, we have to think about a counter, because we want to use the while loop a certain amount of times. So we'll just use I as the counter, and we'll set that to 2, because every time we go through this, we want to start at the power of 2, then we want to increment it and make it power of 3, increment it, power of 4, increment it, power of 5. So while I is less than or equal to 5, there's other ways of writing this expression, obviously. Maybe just do less than 6. I like the less than or equal to, because it tells me, I can just look at the last number and know which one it stops at, but it's up to yourself. We could do this, copy that. Oh, sorry, I'll copy it all in there, right? We want to kind of display it. but we want this to be I, not 2. And we want this to be I, not 2. That way it's dynamic, it's not hard-coded. If I watch my brackets there, that should be okay. And then we want to increment I, so I plus plus. You could just do I equals I plus 1 if you wanted, but let's keep it shorthand. And I think that should do it, right? That should cycle through everything. If I get rid of all this white space. Now run that. Enter a number between 1 and 10, minus 1, 11. If I type in 0, no. If I type in 2, okay. Run it again. If I type in 5, yeah. So if you got that, very well done. Let's move on to puzzle C. Coming out puzzle B, don't need to show you anymore. I'll just take a look at example C and puzzle C. Okay. So for example C, we're really starting to use Boolean values now, and we're making the while loop active or deactivating it based on the Boolean variable. So it's like on off for the while loop. Contagious laughter, we're going to make a program that just laughs at us like a lunatic. As long as we keep entering haha, it's going to keep on laughing. Every third attempt, it's going to go haha to see if we're still laughing. So we have to use this contains function. That'll just check if the string contains ha. Should be fairly straightforward. So we're going to use keep laughing as the Boolean value. Let's give this a go. So bool keep laughing, and we'll set that to true. We'll have a counter. I'm just going to use counter, although I could use I. I think I'll use I in the future. I just really want to hammer home that it's a counter. While, yep, see, it's thinking, well, keep laughing, and then close the brackets. Well, keep laughing's true. You could just do true as well. If you think that's more readable, go for that. But this on its own means that it's true. Okay. So in here there's going to be an if statement, isn't there? So it's going to, for everything less than the first 3 laughs, it's just going to go ha 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 and increment the counter. Multiple ways of doing this. I'm just going to use an if else loop because that's what we've been doing, right? Multiple ways of doing this. So if the counter's less than 3, we'll just display console writeline. And then we'll increment the counter, counter plus plus. Otherwise, once it exceeds 3 counts, we're going to do that haha, just to see if we're still laughing along with it. And then at this point, we want to set keep laughing to false, okay? So that at this point, the next loop will end because this will be false. Now, do we want to do that? No. No, we just want to maybe reset. I'm getting ahead of myself. I think we just want to set the counter equal to 0. And that will stop us asking the first question. Okay, then with staying within this while loop, we're going to need to get the user's input again, right? So string input, console.readline, there we go. We could write anything. I'm just going to leave it blank. We could write anything. We could write maybe dot dot dot, whatever. Ah, sorry, you don't you don't do that in C#. You'd have another. I'm doing the Python puzzles as well, so you're going to see me make little mistakes as I do Python, or if I do C# before Python, I make the mistake in the Python video. If I do Python before C#, I make the mistake in the C# video. So we could just maybe have, and again, I'm just kind of showing you, you don't really need to memorize the syntax, you just have to learn in the language what exists, the while loops, the if else, and you can always Google the actual syntax. You're making something, you're not rote learning anything. So we need to check if this input contains ha. So either the input does contain ha or it does not. So that's a true or false, right? Contains ha. And we'll just get input. We'll do to lower. And then we can just chain this contains onto the end of it and just do ha. That's how easy it is in C#. Dot contains ha, and it's very readable. Input to lower contains ha. Brilliant. You could do the same thing using an if statement, I suppose. You could do if input dot lower contains, if you didn't want to use a boolean, right? So, sorry, well, get my syntax right. And maybe have like a flag. You could do something like this, yeah, flag equal. So instead of it being a boolean, being true or false, you could use just like an integer flag, and 0 would be false and 1 would be true. It's not as readable though, is it? It's not as readable though as a boolean where it's true or false. And then this could potentially, although it's 0 is false and 1's true, you could enter 2, you could enter 2000. So this is why we want to use boolean, because it can only be true or false. If I do bool, my bool, I can't make it null. I won't like it, okay? I won't like anything other than true or false. So we can then do the if statement. If contains ha is false. And I like writing out things like this. Equals equals false and equals equals true. But you could also just do exclamation mark in front of it. That means false. That means not. This is the not. Sort of key. So not true is how you would read that, not true, which is false. I like just really spelling it out, equals equals false, just so everyone knows what this is. An idiot could read it. So if keep laughing, so if contains has false, we want to make keep laughing false so that the loop ends. We want to reset the counter to 0. Well, counter to 0. And then maybe just give some kind of final message like it's good to laugh, something like that. That would do it. That would do it, I think. So this is maybe complicated for beginners because I've just thrown bools at you, and already we're setting the bool based on logic, whether this is true or false. We're using bools in an if statement and we're using them to toggle. So that's quite a lot, guys. If you got that or something like it, very well done. Let me demonstrate that to you. So ha 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 ha. If I type in ha ha, it goes ha 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 ha. If I type in ha ha again, ha 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 ha, ha ha ha, ha ha ha, ha ha ha. If I type in ha and then ha, it should still work because it gets the first ha. So I wonder if this will work because the first two letters are ha Yes, it does. If I type in anything other than ha, like it ends. So there you go. I hope you get a laugh out of that. The computer program gets several. Well done if you got any of that right. Well done. That's another puzzle down. We started learning about while loops. I have the same puzzle available in Python on my Python channel. And my Coding Jobs Simulator website has the premium version of this puzzle, if you want to check it out, as well as the premium versions of other puzzles. Now the while loop, we use this a lot just to get user input in console programs. You could also use it to just validate the user's input. So while the user's entering input, check it out. We only want them to enter letters, not numbers, and vice versa. You could use the while loop to just do a set of instructions to parse data. Maybe you're searching through a database for something, and you're just going through every row. So while the database is active, check every record for this, just while, and then as soon as a record's found, you end the loop. You set the variable and you end the loop. While loops are very common, and console programs, by the way, are very common still. We still write them, especially a console program that maybe runs scripts for your office. Like if there's various scripts someone has to do, maybe they compile reports for a living, and they have a script that goes out to the various databases the company's got and compiles a report. Well, you might not want to spend, tens of thousands of dollars making a fancy web GUI for that when they can just have like an exe file. They double click and enter the title of the report, press enter, and then it goes away and does it all. That might just be more cost effective. I don't think that they'll ever stop making console programs, but the bulk of the work nowadays is done with GUIs and websites. But yeah, anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. On to the next puzzle.